when it comes to budget as well, with influencer marketing, like you said, one of the metrics about the ROI could be the sales that is generated. But apart from sales or creating web traffic, how do you keep the influencer also engaged? Because otherwise he might feel that, oh, I'm being ripped off. What if I'm generating like 5 times the sale or 6 times the sale and I'm not being paid enough? So if that's a situation, I've heard like at least in the fitness industry, this is sort of a deal where you get a commission as well, and you get a percentage salary, like which is your fixed income from particular brand. So is this sort of a thing much more common in tech products or service industry, or it's just when it comes to like fitness or fashion where the sales are high and it's easier to measure the return?
Yeah, I mean, it really comes down. So you're talking about like an affiliate marketing type relationship where you would have somebody that would say, hey, use, coupon code Shane25, right? You get 25% off. Or you have some kind of a giveaway or something and you send them to a landing page and people sign up, and then you know how many people that have signed up and then how many people have potentially either purchased a product or at least signed up for some kind of a giveaway. So yeah, I mean, in those situations, once again, you just have to figure out like how you're going to go about it. So as an influencer, so if I'm an influencer and I say, well, I want to do this thing with Nike, and I've already been talking about Nike shoes for a long time. And I think that, hey, I can make this set amount, right? This is some kind of a fixed base pay, but I really think that I can really move the needle. I think I could sell, 200 pairs of shoes, and they're $200 a piece, right? So that's really bringing Nike, assuming whatever the cost of them are, I feel like that's bringing them a few $1,000, $10,000, $20,000, whatever the number is. And so I would like to, what I'd be willing to do is for the base, I'd be willing to do this amount of content. And then what I'd like to also do is do an affiliate relationship, and I'd like to do some extra content because I feel like I could generate some sales from that. And they say, yeah, that sounds good. We'll give you that base. And then anything extra content that you're doing that you're going to use, your own resources, your own time, your own money, then you think you can generate some affiliate sales. And then Nike, whoever that company, should also help them, that you want them to be successful. Because the best situation for Nike is going to be have somebody that naturally talks about the product and you're not paying them unless they're moving the needle, right? But the thing is a lot of brands are going to come and say, hey, let's just do an affiliate relationship. And a good amount of influencers aren't going to want to do that because they don't know if it's going to be successful or not. Because the issue is this: I can move all kinds of people and I can get all kinds of people on your landing page, but I don't know your salespeople. Right? I don't know how well they're recording the sales and how that's going to happen. I mean, from an affiliate relationship, you'll know that I drove the sales, but if I drive you guys 100 hot people that want to buy the shoes and we only sell one, like, why is that? That's not because I didn't send you some people. It's because you're a sales team and there's some other stuff. So there's a little bit of a risk there for influencers because they're like, well, once again, I don't know how well you guys do things. Like, what is your follow-up and why, So there's a little bit of an issue there. Now, if it's a direct sale, if it's like, hey, you're going to go and buy, a $10, widget, and it's pretty quick and easy, and they know that, let's say it's software, and they get instant access to the software. Well, that's kind of easy, right? Because it's like as long as that process is easy, there's not a lot of friction there where they're not able to sign up, the credit card doesn't work, or there's something wrong with the landing page. As long as all that stuff fits, then that should be a good relationship where the influencer should be able to continue to drive traffic, generate revenue, and once again, close deals, which is going to be win-win for both sides.
Yeah. So if it's a new relationship, or if the influencer was not well aware of the brand beforehand, you suggest that at least when it comes to the leads which are generated by the influencer himself or herself, he should have a substantial amount of control in closing the deal. Like if he offers a discount code, so at the checkout, they're going to use your discount code, and that's how we'll know that that's a short sale. So you have driven all the sale that has to happen. So something like that, or a gift card that you offer, that could be sort of a thing that an influencer should focus on when he's working with a newer brand or a smaller brand. And when it comes to a well-known brand who's really established, let's say, then what kind of a relationship should the influencer develop with them?
Well, I mean, it can be the same thing. It can be, once again, if it comes to an affiliate relationship, like how am I going to know, how is the brand wants to know that I'm moving the needle and how I'm doing that, right? And then myself, I want to know that, hey, I want to go through that whole sales process. Like I want to go to landing page yours developed for me. I want to go and purchase something. I want to make sure that everything's solid there, right? Because I'm driving my people, and it needs to be good. If people come back to me and go, hey, Shane, I clicked on that link and it went to this weird thing and I tried to put my credit card, I'm having issues. Now I'm customer service, right? And I'm an influencer. I don't really want to have to do customer service. I want to produce content. So, you have to test that as an influencer and say, hey, make sure that everything's working. It's a good funnel. And then once the funnel's working great, then you can start promoting it to your audience and start closing some deals. If you have a smaller brands that you're working with, the only thing is most of the time they don't have a lot of brand recognition, right? So there's not a lot of brand awareness. So you're probably going to have to educate your audience more on that. If it's a brand new shoe that just came out, nobody knows about it, you need to explain why it's better than Nike or Adidas or whatever that may be. If it's Nike, well, there's some, most people know about Nike. So if you're talking about this great Nike shoe, people are going to go, oh, I know Nike. Oh, I love Nikes. I used to have some Nikes. It's going to be a lot easier to close people, right? But if you're talking about, this new shoe called, Joey's shoe, and I'm like, nobody's ever heard of it. Well, I have to educate. I have to, once again, there's a lot more stuff that goes into that because there's an education side of it where people go, well, I've never heard of Joey's shoes. I'm not going to buy them. But yet they see you running in them. They see you performing in them. They see that you've lost some weight. They see that you're running more. You have an injury, but now you no longer have an injury. And it's because of these great shoes that have helped your feet. Now they're like, okay, now this makes sense. But it's going to be a little bit of a harder sell because once again, it's not a household name.
Yeah. My next question, it's going to be a little off topic, but so like I said, it's influencers are mostly predominantly seen on Instagram. A couple of years ago, we had something called Wine. So a lot of content creators used to make those 1-minute videos, and that's how they created a lot of traction, but it died. And then they moved on to like YouTube or some other platforms or changed their field completely. So do you think TikTok is it Instagram worthy? It's here to stay, or it's gonna be Wine? It's just bad.
So TikTok's going crazy right now. I mean, their platform's growing, I think, faster than any other platform in the history of platforms. I mean, it's pretty nuts. I mean, the thing is, it's a younger demographic, right? So it's a younger type of people that produce the content for there. I mean, I don't see it going away. I mean, the big question always is how do you monetize, right? So you get, it's every platform. You get all kinds of users and everything's great. And then you gotta, okay, now I got to figure out how to take them from a freemium model and how do we charge for this, right? Whether it be ads or there's a lot of different ways you can do that. And I think that's what they have to figure out. But they've got the audience. I mean, it's obviously really big in China. There's obviously there's a lot of people jumping on it. I think it is newsworthy. I mean, like I said, usually you can tell on how much people like it and how much they're talking about it. And there's a crazy buzz around it. I don't think it's gonna go anywhere, but you never know too, is when things grow that fast, there becomes this, there's a lot of growing pains that happen with that. And so, you can get funding and, a lot of people will fund something saying, hey, you have users and we can figure out how to make money later. I mean, like Twitter, Twitter's, they've I don't know if they're positive cash flow now, but it's the same with Amazon. Amazon the longest time was in the red. Most of these companies, these big companies, because they grow so fast, there's a certain point where you're like, hey, we're losing money. I mean, I think Uber just became positive, but you have these, you got to figure out you got the audience and now how do you monetize it? So I think TikTok is going to be around for a while. And I just see, like I said, unless it crumbles because they can't keep up with the growth rate and they don't know how to monetize it. But I think funding usually, they get bridge loans, they get these loans along the way that will continue to help them grow in other nations and be able to, generate some kind of revenue stream.
True. And so like the year is coming to an end in like a quarter or so. And so do you have any future trends regarding influencer marketing that brands or companies should start working on for their 2020 strategies in place already?
Yeah, I mean, I think really what it comes down to is what we're working on. I'm just going to tell you, like my agency, we're working on education. I mean, obviously with my background at UCLA and the course that I taught over there, I'm actually developing a course for influencers. So it's called howtobeininfluencer.com. It's actually going to be live here in the next probably another month. But the idea of this is that we want to help educate influencers on how to work with brands, right? And really how to work on their personal branding, because it's a big issue. Like, you're going to pitch these companies and you're pitching them from a Gmail account. Like you really want to show that you have your business together. You have a website, And really influencers have to think about it like, there's these algorithms, right, on whether it be, whether it's, YouTube or whether it's Instagram, they're always going to complain about, because it's always going to change, right? And so the problem is you always should have a website, and you should be driving the traffic from your social media stuff to your website where it has your money page and all the other stuff, where you have your course or you have whatever this is, whatever you're selling, right? And so I think that's a big thing. Another thing at brands, I also do workshops for brands as well. And so, it's important for brands before they go hot and heavy into influencer marketing to educate themselves, because there's a lot of miseducation of like, hey, they have to have a huge follower account, and hey, you can just post one time and it's going to be, drive tons of sales. It really, it's a strategy, right? This needs to be a piece of your marketing mix, right? It's not just, you don't want to take all of your budget and put it in influencer marketing and say, God, I hope this works. I mean, you still should be doing SEO. You should be doing content marketing. You should do some PPC. Influencer marketing is another piece of that, but you have to educate yourself. So we did a big workshop in San Francisco. We had about 35 brands, and it was an 8-hour workshop that we did. Had some great platforms there and stuff. And so I was the host, and I put the content together, and it was awesome. We had Amazon was there, Purple.com was there, and we had some really, really huge brands. But the idea of this was we wanted to help educate them on how to work with influencers, right? So we have a course that we're going to do for influencers, like how to become like better work with brands, right? Understand like they're questioning what they're looking for, how to be able to set a budget, how to be able to put a campaign together, and once again, and be able to ask the right questions. And then for brands, hey, I want to work with these influencers, like how do I negotiate? Like what exactly do I ask for? Like what do I put in my contract? What do I put in my brief? Like like I said, we've really put our time into the education, because I think that's where, if you have a failed influencer marketing campaign, like I'll talk to brands and they're like, yeah, we've done influencer marketing and it failed. I'm like, what did you do? Like, well, we hired one person on Instagram and it just didn't go well. And I'm like, well, you can't say influencer marketing didn't work because you hired one person. Like, they're not the only influencer in the world, right? And there's other platforms. I mean, it's the same thing like the Fry Festival. Like, the big thing about that, and people were like, oh my God, influencer marketing, people are being scammed, this, that, and the other. I'm like, not really. Like, influencer, it just showed, the Fry Festival showed that it worked. It showed that people were paying $10,000 for a ticket, right? So it shows that it works. I mean, to me, that's like, when they talk about it not working, I go, no, actually it did work. The problem was logistics with there and, food, and they didn't understand what they were doing from, having this crazy event that's going to be on an island. Logistically, they didn't know what they were doing, but influencer marketing and the influencers knew what they were doing. They were able to sell tickets. And so that's what you have to look at, is like, what are you going to be able to do to be able to put up content, and how are you going to be able to drive your followers? And so, like I said, education for us is going to be big for us. And that's why for brands and influencers. And I think, once again, influencers have to get more educated on, hey, my own personal brand, what kind of image am I putting out there? How do I put out great content? How do I pitch a brand? And then brands have to look at it and say, hey, when I'm talking with influencers, how do we make this a better deal? How do we do value trades? How do we make it so that it's a win-win for both sides? And I think there's a lot of education that goes into that. I write about it on my blog, obviously. I write about it on a lot of different websites, and we're working on a course and stuff. But it just comes down to education. It really comes down to, once again, not every influencer is the same. So just because you have one deal with this influencer doesn't mean it's going to be good for this influencer. Some influencers will do free product. Great, send me $300 worth of shoes a month, and I can do 2 articles or 2, whatever, 2 blog posts for you, or 1 blog post or a video. I'm okay with that. Another one could say, nope, I don't want that. I want $10,000. Okay. The cool part about it for brands, there's thousands, if not millions, of influencers. So if you deal with an influencer that's a diva, or like asking for too much, or this, that, and the other, and I get brands go, we have to work with this person. And I go, why? Oh, because it's Kim Kardashian's cousin. I'm like, who cares? Like, who cares? Like, if their followership, we can go find somebody that has the exact same, or close to the same followership, that we could, they would charge us 1/10 that amount. Like, so that's the thing, is that there's so many options out there. Brands have to realize, like, it's not just one person anymore. It's not like you just have one celebrity that you have to work with. There's all kinds of influencers out. You just have to go find them. You have to go look at them, and then I interview them. Once again, or have the brand should interview them to talk to them about next steps, and once again, if they like the brand, how they're going to, how it's resonating, and different kind of content they were thinking about, and see if it's a good fit.
Yeah, that's nice. And so that's what I was wondering, the same thing, that brands are so confused about who they want to work with, or they're so confused about where should I start, that they always want an agency or a company who spoon feeds them with information, or they want tools which spoon feeds them with the information. But now I've seen a trend that agencies or influencers per se they've moved on to educating the brands or educating companies so that they can do things on their own and they're not heavily dependent on one agency or one tool or something like that. So why is there a shift in the culture or the way that influencers or agencies are looking at marketing and strategizing?
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing is, there's some of the values of working with an agency is that agencies have influencers that they work with, right? Because some of the issues with, and not all influencers, but influencers is like, are they responsible? Do they produce content on time? Are they, good with timelines? There's, I've worked with thousands of influencers, and I have a list of influencers that I've worked with that are responsible, that get their stuff done, that are on time, and are creative, and they're also very passionate about getting it done. They're doing it full time. They don't have to do it full time, but the idea is through an agency, the agency should have those relationships, and you can sometimes get price breaks, and you can get better deals because the agency has these relationships with these influencers. That's awesome, right? There's value in that. Now, if you want to go run your own campaign, there's going to be a little bit of a ramp up getting to find your stable of influencers that have done a good job for your campaigns. Because not every influencer, just because you have one influencer that didn't do good, doesn't mean all influencers are bad, right? If I do an SEO campaign with an SEO company and it doesn't go well, I don't go, well, all SEO sucks, right? No, it's just everything's out the door. It's not that way. It's just that influencer, maybe their audience, maybe it was the messaging, but you still have to move forward. The idea is you keep doing these campaigns to find out, what doesn't work, and you want to find out what does work. So when you're doing these campaigns and working with influencers, I mean, I think the key thing to it is that you just want to, once again, you want to test things, right? You want to see what's working, what's not working. And it's if you work with an agency, there's some value in that, but just know that there's going to be a higher premium, right? So, but if you reach out to that exact same influencer, they might charge you more because you don't have that relationship with them, right? So it really comes down to, what are you looking for? If you want to do managed campaigns and you have a team and you want to train a team, that's what I do. I train teams on how to work with influencers, right? And how to find the influencers and everything to negotiate, all the fun stuff. But if you have a budget and you say, hey, I don't want to take on the headache of all that, I want an agency to do it, and the agency has the relationships, awesome, hire an agency, right? And have them put the campaign together. But as a brand, you have to remember, I would still educate yourself on influencer marketing. You still want to have, right? I mean, you can go educate yourself on SEO. You don't have to go do it, but you want to have some general, understand the vernacular, the terms that they're using. You understand, how things go, when you can expect to see results, and that kind of thing. And that will be done through education on your own side. So brands can, read my articles or other articles. There's a lot of other people that write great information about influencer marketing, get enough information to be dangerous, and then hire an agency, ask the right questions, and then once again, start working on some campaigns. It just depends on what you want to do. If you want to take it in-house and you want to do managed services, it's going to take some time, but then you're also in control of everything, right? You know what's going on a daily basis. You know where all your money's going. You know what's going on with negotiations. It's a little more transparent. But with agencies, once again, we've partnered with agencies and had some great success with agencies, and some agencies we've had not that good of success. And then I have agencies that I've trained, the big agencies that were like, oh, we do influencer marketing, and they come to me behind the scenes and go, hey, can you help us a little bit? Like, we need some help on this. We're not really sure what we're doing. So, it's like everything else. Just because you work with one bad agency doesn't mean all agencies are bad. Just because you work with one bad influencer doesn't mean all influencers are bad. It's, it's a testing thing. You got to find the good one and find the good fit.
Yeah, true. So for our audience, this is a special section where you could either share a client story with them, which really impacted or which really did well, or you could share a personal struggle or a client which was irate, or you could share something related to a person or a situation which inspired you to work towards influencer marketing or be within the realm of digital marketing.
Yeah. So, I mean, my go-to story is kind of how I jumped into influencer marketing. There was a client that reached out to me. Her name was Zoe Rodriguez. On Instagram, she's Zoe Live Love Lift. And so she reached out to me and said, hey, I'm this is before it was called influencer marketing. So she's like, hey, I really want to, I really need help with social media marketing. And I said, oh, okay, tell me what you do. And she says, well, and we didn't even call them influencers. She's like, I just have an ebook that I sell, fitness ebook online. I think she had about 180,000 followers on Instagram. I said, okay. So I looked at her profile, and really between us, I just wasn't that excited about it. Cause I was like, fitness. And a push up and a sit up, and it's just kind of it's a saturated industry, right? There's just a lot. It's nothing new. It's all the same stuff. Nothing's disruptive. And I just was like, I don't know if I want to get into this, but with doing a call with her, she told me, she's like, hey, I've got 3 products that I'm selling right now. It's called Build a Better Booty, which I think we know the premise of that, right? We have Sexy Arms and Sexy Legs. There's 3 programs. And so I was like, oh, okay, cool. Like, kind of tell me about it. And each one of the programs are $20. And so the first one, she says, yeah, the Build a Better Booty, which is my big one, the big one that everybody seems to love. She goes, I've only sold 10,000 this year. I'm like, 10,000 times $20. I'm like, it's $200,000. And I'm like, what about Sexy Arms? She goes, oh, maybe 5,000. I go, what about Sexy Legs? Maybe 5. So she's selling $400,000 worth of product online through Instagram. And I'm like, and she's like, oh, so I mean, she's making almost $35,000 a month. And she's like, yeah, I mean, it's okay. And she's like, not really that, I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. Like, she's making 30 grand a month, 30 plus grand. So for me, that was kind of like an aha moment. I thought, man, this is kind of crazy that she's selling these ebooks. And long story short, we ended up helping her. We got her to 1.6 million in a year's time. So she was clearing $1 million a year herself. But we revamped everything. We revamped her website, her messaging, all of her ebooks. We helped her develop a customer service platform so she didn't have to take on those emails. We helped her put on actual shows. Like, she would go down to certain cities and they would do these retreats with the girls. And I mean, we did a lot of different stuff. We would package the products up so that instead of buying one ebook for $20, you could buy all of them for $50, which was a huge discount. And obviously there's no overhead cost, right? It's not like a shirt that you have, a shirt costs $10 and you make $5. This was a PDF. So once the content's produced, you can bundle them together, and we increase the total. I guess it's pretty much the checkout cost, right? I mean, what it usually was $20, now we got it up to $35 because more people were buying more ebooks. So, anyways, it's some cool stuff like that. I mean, that really was my first big campaign where I was like, man, this girl's absolutely crushing. I mean, she got up, like I said, 1.6 million in sales. She was over 500,000 followers. I think she's a little under that now. When we started, and it just was a crazy campaign. Like Black Friday, I think we sold like $35,000 in one day of ebooks. I mean, it was just crazy. So seeing that was like, it like blew me away. I was like, man, this is insane. And then they started talking about influencers, and Zoe was interesting because she was a product, right? She had her product, her ebooks, but then she was also an influencer. So we would have all these companies that would pitch her. And so I became kind of like her manager, where I would, we'd say yes to these products and no to these products. And she would produce content around that. And so I really cut my teeth, or I learned the industry from both sides. And it was crazy. It was crazy to see the money that was coming in. It's crazy the amount of the people that were willing to pay, the amounts of brands were willing to pay for some kind of exposure from Zoe. So it was a great experience. And that was like how I got my, that's like how I jumped in the industry and how I've kind of taken it to where we're at today.
Oh, that's actually amazing. Pretty amazing. I did hear about Zoe, and I did remember the figure, like you converted it to a 6-figure sum, but I didn't know it was so much and so fast. And so apart from how to become an influencer course, what else is up? Like where can our audience find you? Are you attending some events or anything?
I am. I'm actually going to be doing a keynote at Inflow Summit at Istanbul. I believe it's in October. So that's Inflow Summit, and that's going to be in Istanbul, Turkey. So I'll be doing the keynote there. I also have quite a few other events. I've got about 4 or 5 events that we're finalizing contracts on. But one of them will be in New York. One's in Austin. So I've got quite a few speaking events that I'm going to be going to. I usually update my website. So if you go to shanebarker.com, you'll see on the top it says speakers or speaking. We have a list there of the different places that I'll be speaking at for the end of this year, and then also for next year as well.
Oh, that's great. So thank you so much for all the information that you've given us on influencer marketing. And I hope you have a great day. And I'll also inform you when the podcast goes live, the video goes live.
I'm looking forward to it. Oh, another thing is if you can also go to shanebarker.com. You can obviously have a newsletter there. And then the howtobeaninfluencer.com will be up here in the next few weeks. And so if anybody wants to sign up early for that, the course is going to be very inexpensive, but the idea is to help people become influencers, at least have a great foundation before they pitch brands.
Yeah. Okay. I'll surely tell my audience and keep that in mind as well for promotions.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me on the podcast today. This was awesome.
Thank you. Have a great
All right.
day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.